In today's class, we will discuss about one of the most important concepts in the production analysis is cost. Cost means the expenditure incurred by the producer for the production of goods and services. So an entrepreneur has to bear the expenditure on different goods and services that they has to produce. So for that, they have to pay the rent, they have to purchase the raw materials, they have to pay the salaries to the permanent workers, wages to the temporary workers, etc. All these comes under the expenses. These expenses has to be borne by the entrepreneur. So the expenses borne or incurred by the entrepreneur for the production of goods and services is known as the cost. This cost depends on certain factors like size of the output, scale of the operation, and prices of the factors of production. The size of the output it means the size of the output means if the entrepreneur wants to produce 1,000 items, the expenditure will be according to the size. Scale means whether the entrepreneur is producing at the large scale or medium scale or small scale. It also determines the cost incurred by the entrepreneur and the prices of the factors of production. That means what is the rate of the rent, what is the rate of the interest, what is the rate of the wages, what is the rate of the profit also determines the expenditure of the entrepreneur. So on the whole, what we can say, the cost means the expenditure incurred by the producer for the production of goods and services. Now, how many types of costs are there or how many concepts of cost can be understood? Concept means the way of understanding. The costs can be divided into first division is explicit cost and implicit cost. Okay. So explicit first we'll discuss about explicit cost. Explicit cost means the cost which are entered into the books of accounts. Which are entered into the books of accounts. That means all the money transactions by the entrepreneur is known as the money cost. All money costs are known as the explicit cost. Why? Because they are entered into the books of accounts. On the contrary, the next one is implicit cost. So implicit cost means the cost which are not entered into the books of accounts. Because they are the factors which are owned by the entrepreneur, which are used in the production process, but which are not paid. For example, entrepreneurs own capital invested in the business. Entrepreneurs building which is used for the production process, etc. They are owned by the entrepreneur. They are used in the production process, but they are not paid. So when they are not paid, they are not entered into the books of accounts. They are known as the implicit cost. If explicit cost and implicit cost are combined, then we can get the economic cost. It is very important to understand the concept of economic cost. Why? Because without understanding the economic cost, you cannot or we cannot understand the profit rate. So, if the revenue received by the entrepreneur is covering the economic cost, then the entrepreneur is in the break-even point. If the revenue is more than the economic cost, then the entrepreneur is earning supernormal profits. If the revenue received by the entrepreneur is less than the economic cost, then the entrepreneur is suffering from or facing the loss. So this is the first differentiation in the cost, that is explicit cost, implicit cost, and economic cost. And next category is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means the next best alternative which is sacrificed to obtain this commodity. For example, an entrepreneur is having two options in front of him. The entrepreneur is producing the cotton, that is textile industry. So the first option is the entrepreneur can produce or cultivate the cotton by themselves or purchase the cotton from outside market, which is the basic raw materials for the textile industry. But suppose The entrepreneur is cultivating the cotton by themselves. Then the expenditure is 5 lakhs. If they are purchasing the cotton from outside the market, they have to pay 7 lakhs per annum. So among these two options, the entrepreneur can opt either cultivating by themselves or by um, by purchasing from the outside. So the opportunity cost means the next best alternative which is sacrificed to obtain this commodity. And the next one is social cost. Okay. So social cost means the pains, the sacrifices, the efforts made by the working class or the laborers can be termed as the social cost. Okay. So social cost is very important. Social cost is very important. Why? Because without the efforts or without the sacrifice of the people of that particular area, an entrepreneur cannot continue the process of production. So the social cost is also very important. And the next one is the fixed cost. So fixed cost means the cost which will remain constant, which will not change along with the output is known as the fixed cost. They are also known as the uncontrollable cost and inescapable cost. Why? Because whether the production is going or not, the entrepreneur has to keep an watchman for their company. So the expenditure on the watchman is permanent. Salaries to the laborer, the permanent laborers is permanent. Such types of costs are known as the fixed cost. On the contrary, variable cost. So variable cost means what? The cost which will change along with the output. When there is no production, there is no output. When there is production, there will be cost. Okay. So the expenditure on the temporary workers or on the purchase of raw materials all comes under the comes under the this type of variable cost. Okay. So fixed cost and variables. And one more thing, fixed cost and variable cost differentiation can be seen only in the short. But in the long run, all costs are variable. The cost which cannot be changed are known as the fixed cost. The cost which can be changed are known as the variable. Okay. Along with this, there are some of the costs like semi-variable costs, stage step fashion cost. Such type of costs are just for information. They are not so much important. So that is the stage step fashion cost means it's like the cost means like a staircase. That means up to certain age, this type of cost will remain constant. For suppose there are only 20 laborers, there will be only one manager. If the number of laborers increased to 30, so they require 2 managers. So instead of 1 manager, now 2 managers are there. So suddenly the manager's expenditure was increased from 1 to 2. This is known as the stage step fashion cost. Semi-variable cost means these costs sometimes remains constant and later it will increase. For example, whether we are using the electricity or not, we have to pay some basic amount that is fixed. How many units we are using, we have to pay for that. So that is known as the semi-variable cost. Semi-variable cost exists between the fixed cost and variable cost. Okay. So these are there are some direct costs, some are visible. Visible means which can be easily identified. Indirect cost means which cannot be easily identified, which are indirect. Okay. So these are the different types of cost an entrepreneur has to bear when they are in the production process. But these costs will be seen only in the short run. In the long run, some of the costs will disappear.